Welcome to the training site for DEIRA's environmental farming scheme. This training module is an introduction for the environmental farming scheme wider level option, creation of riparian buffers 2 meters width, ungrazed. A riparian buffer refers to an area bordering a watercourse or standing waters such as lakes or ponds. For the training, you will need to watch this video, and this is followed by 4 questions which you have to answer. Further details about the environmental farming scheme are available on the DEIRA website. This includes the information sheet for each of the options. This training will cover a number of aspects of the option, explaining what it is and where it might be a good place to establish it. It will give you reasons why you might establish it, as well as certain things you must do as part of the scheme. It discusses the field records that have to be kept and covers a number of things that should not be done or must not be done as part of the scheme. It outlines the checks that DEIRA will carry out as their responsibility for the scheme. It gives the payment rates and then discusses capital items and finishes with some further practical advice which should help you make a success of this project. Basically, what is it? Well, the option is about fencing off watercourses from livestock. A watercourse can be defined as a dry shuck, a wet shuck, a stream, a river, a lake or a waterway, which is at least 1 metre wide on average. The stock-proof fence must have either sheep wire and 3 rows of barbed wire, or else 5 rows of barbed wire. It's important to remember that the amount detailed in the agreement is the amount that must be done. Overall, for the option, there's a minimum of 10 meters length and a maximum will be as per the maximum agreement value. What are the benefits of establishing this option? Well, it should reduce the bank poaching and stabilise the banks, thereby improving water quality. This will reduce the amount of sedimentation and pollution in the watercourse and have the effect of enhancing the biodiversity of your farm. Where might you want to establish it? Well, in places where there's evidence of damage or poaching to the bank, in places where livestock gain access to a watercourse to drink or cross over to another field, or indeed somewhere where there is little or no riparian vegetation. It is good in places that are suitable for grazed grass fields adjacent to watercourses. However, please note it is not suitable to fence off a watercourse where it is adjacent to breeding wader sites, as the wire may impede young chicks' access to the watercourse. There are certain things that have to be done as part of the scheme. The option is established in year 1 and must be retained and maintained in the same area for the duration of the EFS agreement. You must adhere to the scheme requirements and controls as detailed in the option information sheet. Some of these main items are summarised in the next few slides. For example, you must erect the protective fence to the required standard on the field side of the riparian buffer, and this work has to be completed by 1st of June in year 1 of the agreement, using fence posts with a minimum of 15-year life. You must establish the claimed length in the fields where it is approved, and you must establish an average of 2 meters area of riparian buffer per 1 meter length of the strip. You must retain and manage the same area and location for the duration of the agreement. You must retain the buffer for 10 years after the scheme end date. You must maintain the protective fence in a stock-proof condition for the duration of the agreement. And if your buffer is established as part of the higher level scheme, then you must establish, retain and manage the buffer as detailed in the site-specific remedial management plan. You must also keep field records detailing the area created, the location, the dates work is completed, and all the management requirements, including integrated pest management requirements. These records need to be kept at field level, and they need to be kept each year of the works that are undertaken for this option, and also for any capital items associated with the option. You may wish to use the format shown here that is available on the DAERA website, or else you may prefer to use your own format to keep the required information. Please note that there is a separate training module on record keeping, which will give you some help with this aspect of the scheme. You will need to keep agreement level records each year of the two parts of integrated pest management highlighted here. This means indicating, as shown here by ticking a box, that you have assessed whether there are any issues with harmful organisms or pests in the establishment or maintenance of the options in your agreement. And secondly, that you have checked and recorded what measures you have taken to protect the option from such pests. You must not cut or graze the vegetation in the 2 metre width next to the watercourse, and you must not apply organic or inorganic fertiliser to the riparian buffer. DAERA will undertake certain checks to verify that the works proposed and paid for have been completed and are to the required standard. The range of checks done for this option will be based on the requirements and controls as detailed in the option information sheet. Checks can be of various types. They may be office-based administrative checks, or secondly, they could be technologically based checks such as controlled by remote sensing, or thirdly, they could be on-site checks such as rapid field visits or on-the-spot checks. Some of the checks are outlined in the next few slides. They can check that the protective fence has been erected in year 1 by the 1st of June. They can check that the claimed length has been created in the approved fields. They will check that on average 2 metres area of strip is prepared for each 1 metre length, and they'll check that the claimed length is erected to scheme specification. They will check that the same area and location of riparian buffer is retained and managed for the duration of the agreement. They will check that the riparian buffer protective fence is maintained in a stock-proof condition for the duration of the agreement, and they will check that vegetation in the 2 metre width next to the watercourse is not cut or grazed during the agreement. They'll check that everything that is included in the site-specific remedial management plan is done for those in the higher scheme. They'll check that no organic or inorganic fertilisers are applied, and they'll check that field records are kept according to the standard of the scheme. The payment rate in the first year of the agreement is £6.07 per metre, and subsequently in years 2 to 5 the payment rate will be 7 pence per metre. Please note that you must retain the buffer for 10 years after the scheme end date. This is the list of additional capital items available in association with this option. Only if these were added at application stage will they form part of the agreement. Where they are part of the agreement, you should complete the separate training module relating to the relevant capital item or items, and also consult the relevant capital item information sheet. Please note also that you only claim for additional gate and 2 gate posts stockproof fence if you require more than one access point per 150 metres. There is already a payment in year 1 for the 1 gate and 2 posts per 150 metres. There's some further advice now in the next few slides which hopefully will help you maintain and manage your chosen option successfully. You should avoid setting spoil from the watercourse on the buffer site. The Department for Infrastructure Transport Northern Ireland must be approached for approval before gates, gate posts and fencing are erected along roadsides. You should discuss and agree with the person who has control of the neighbouring land if you're establishing a riparian buffer along a march boundary. And you should employ good soil management in adjacent fields to reduce the runoff pressure on the buffer, improve and prolong its effectiveness, and reduce the costs of managing and repairing it. Also, if you establish a hedge parallel to or along the field side of the buffer, it will enhance its effectiveness as a buffer. In addition, establishing a hedge or shelter belt of woodland in the sloping fields running towards the riparian buffer will reduce the runoff reaching it. Finally, as we come to the end of this training video, there are a number of things that you need to do. You must now complete the questions for this option which follow the video. This is essential so as to register that your training on the option is complete. Secondly, you should also read the information sheet that relates to this option. This is available on the lesson site and also on the EFS section of the DERA website. And finally, if you have further options or capital items in your agreement, you can take the training for them after you complete the questions for this option.